They'll have no shortage of suitors on the free agent market. Right now, the Jets are the betting favorites to land him. However, they reportedly aren't going to hand Cousins a blank check. Coach, where should Cousins play next season?
I like Cousins in Cleveland. I think that's where he should go. They've got a significant amount of salary cap space, so that won't be an issue. And to me, if he really believes that he's a franchise quarterback, there's no better place to go and prove that than there. And New England or Cleveland's in a unique situation. They've got 2 picks in the first 4 picks. Okay, they've got 5 picks in the first 2 rounds. They've got 12 draft picks overall. They've got money even after they signed Cousins to continue to improve the team. They've got 3 first-round draft picks from last year. They've got Josh Gordon. They've got 2 offensive coaches between Hugh Jackson and who else just signed there. It's a good offensive system. I think there's a lot of upset. Yeah, I was thinking Todd Haley. Can't believe I forgot my man. So you've got two guys that understand that division and have creativity. It's a good situation.
All right, so it doesn't bother you 1 win in 2 years, like the graveyard of quarterbacks who have gone there to die, like the dysfunction with like the new general man, like all of the issues that come with Cleveland don't bother you?
No, I live in Cleveland. I've been,
You're not going to.
You just want to be able to walk around the city. That's why you're saying this.
No. After being let go in Cleveland, it's not the worst thing to see the football team struggle. You know. So, but I do think from an opportunity standpoint, they have as much firepower as any organization has had to improve this team. There's young players. They've got resources with the salary cap. They've got a tremendous amount of resources with draft picks. And then if you're the guy that's going to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, then you believe that you're a franchise quarterback and you can go change a franchise. Well, why can't he be the LeBron version for the Browns?
Well, LeBron's not going to the Sacramento Kings. I mean, LeBron's saying, I'm going to Houston
but if LeBron
team.
went to the Sacramento Kings, they'd be really good, really quickly.
Coach, I mean, look, I get what you're saying. They do have a lot of resources. But I think he could go to Denver and prove the same thing. Now, it wouldn't be taking a team from the doldrums like Cleveland, but if he went to Denver and got them to the Super Bowl or won the Super Bowl, don't you think people would be just as impressed as if he went to Cleveland and got them to the playoffs? Really?
Denver
if he won the Super Bowl?
How many years ago?
Yeah, but still, your legacy, if we look back at Kirk Cousins in the future and we say, oh, wow, he led Cleveland from, 1-30 or 1-31 to 3 straight playoff appearances, but they never won anything like a Super Bowl or got to maybe even the AFC Championship game. Or you look back and say he won 1 Super Bowl with Denver or Jacksonville or something. I think that would be better for his legacy than just leading Cleveland to the playoffs.
But there's an assumption that the furthest he can go is getting to the playoffs. And when you're a franchise quarterback, when you're an elite guy, you should be putting your team in a position to compete for the Super Bowl every year. And a lot of this is about how he feels about himself and whether or not he truly feels that he's that transformational guy. And that's how he wants to be paid. And if that's how he views himself, there's no greater place than Cleveland to go and be a transformational player.
What about the Jets? I mean, that's a lot. They've been better than the Browns have recently.
Yeah, but it's a little bit like the stock market. Past performance is not necessarily a predictor of future performance. Look at San Francisco. You add Garoppolo and things change dramatically. You add a quarterback, a good quarterback, to an organization and the whole narrative changes. Everything changes. And if he is that guy, this is a great place.
Because I heard you say if he's that guy a couple times. I think he could be the equivalent of the next Drew Brees. Because I think Drew Brees early in his career had some doubters, and he played some significantly snaps in San Diego. They were like, well, we're good. We're going to go draft Phillip Rivers. Then he goes on, finds a franchise who believes in him, builds around him, and his career flourishes, brings New Orleans to the Super Bowl. I feel like Kirk Cousins is that type of quarterback. Are you, like if you keep saying if he's a threat, do you think he could bring Cleveland to that next level and elevate them to this, hey, they could be a Super Bowl contender within a reasonable amount of time?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm a little bit torn on Kirk because I've seen him play a lot of really good football, and then I've seen him in some critical moments where I haven't felt as strongly about his ability to bring the team where it needs to be. It is a little bit of a flag when the coaching staff and the organization who's had him for the longest is willing to move on the way that they have, even though they've invested a significant amount of money between the two franchise tags over the last year. That would concern me as well. To me, this is about his decision. He has the unique opportunity to decide where he wants to go. How much does he believe in himself?
Danny, you told us earlier you thought that if it were you, you would go to Denver.
Yeah, I think so too. But I also think Jacksonville, and I don't even know if they'd worry about legacy in Jacksonville, like City, as far as City's franchises go. I don't even know if they care. But I think from a pure, like the roster that's around you, a young, talented defense that can get after it. You've got one of the best young, up-and-coming running backs. You've got wide receivers that, can tear it up on the outside. And you've got a team that was knocking on the door of the Super Bowl last year to the surprise of everybody. The only problem you have, and this is more Jacksonville's issue, is you have Blake Bortles having a hand surgery where they've got to figure out his deal. But if they were able to move on from Blake Bortles, I think if I'm Kirk Cousins, I would look at Jacksonville and say, and it's not something that probably comes into play to a lot of guys, but there is no state income tax in the state of Florida, which, compared to some other states, if you went to California or other, it's a significant savings. But I think from a pure football stand, I think it's a really good fit, and it's a place where you can win instantly and bring a Super Bowl to that team.
As much as I like Kirk Cousins, and I think he's been underappreciated, I don't think he's gonna ever be like a top 5 quarterback that can just carry a franchise. I think he's the type of guy that does need a lot of help around him, like in Denver, like in Jacksonville. You're right, the Browns have the assets to maybe improve the team, but we don't know that they will. They may make wrong decisions. We've obviously that's their history recently. So I think he needs to go to a team. We saw him in Washington he didn't have the pieces to be like a Super Bowl contending team, and he couldn't carry them by himself to that next level.
So if that's your feeling, would you want to sign him?
Yeah, because if I'm Denver and I've got the great defense, or Jacksonville with the great defense, I got great receivers and all the other pieces in place, and I just need a quarterback, and I think that's the missing link to get us back to the Super Bowl, I would sign him.
But you're not getting married for 1 year. This is a long-term relationship, and when you start paying guys that type of money, it affects you in a lot of other areas. So maybe you compete for this year, but that contract doesn't go away, that money doesn't go away, and it affects your ability to compete in future years. I think if you add Drew Brees to Cleveland, they're in the playoffs and potentially contending for the Super Bowl. There's certain guys that are force multipliers, and you're okay spending that percentage of the cap on them. If you think a guy is a guy, then it's going to be hard to commit that much of the resources to him.
Coach, you're our guy. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you being here with us. Coming up, how much pressure is on Lonzo Ball in his return from injury? That's next on First Things First.
You just want to be able to hang out in the flats. Is the flats even exist still?